It's time to get out of that profit last trap, where literally you guys as business owners are putting profit last. You don't even know you're doing it. Subconsciously, you don't even know you're going, work, and you hope for a profit. That is what so many business owners are doing. They are hoping for a profit, putting lots of effort and work into their business and getting no return. Guys, if that's you, I reckon you stay tuned.
If we're not growing, you're not growing.
Today's video is all about profit first, and there's nothing more than I love about talking about profit. Guys, in case you don't know me, my name's Nathan Rigney. I am the profit generator. I am owner of NGR Accounting in the Sutherland Shire. Guys, welcome to today's podcast where we're talking everything profit first. And if you don't know anything about profit first, you're in for a treat. But I tell you what, we're gonna get real, we're gonna get down to it, and there might be some things that you might feel uncomfortable about, but we're gonna talk about them. All right, let's go. The traditional profit models are broken. And what do I mean by that? The traditional model focusing on sales, revenue, and treating profit really as this leftover piece of cash. And basically what we're doing is we're saying, hey, look at the accounting formula. We say sales less expenses equals profit, all right? So you basically get this fundamental belief or this formula that, you know, all us accountants work towards, right? That's what we're taught in university, is that equation. And even as business owners, you guys are following the same concept, but it is fundamentally flawed. And when we start talking about it and you start thinking about it, you start realizing that, yeah, it's 100%. And you know, what I see in a lot of business owners is that they run their business and they are good at what they do. And that's what they're focusing on, just getting it done, pushing the sales out. And then the expenses tend to come with that. And at the end, they want to pay themselves something decent, but there's no money there for them to pay them. And you're getting to the end where there's just no profit. And that is very much where we look at this traditional accounting formula where we say the sales less expenses equals profit. And what happens is when we start focusing on that, it leads to businesses prioritizing spending and hoping there's a profit at the end, which rarely happens. Many business owners, they find themselves with really good impressive turnover. You know, you look at it and you go, hey, you're a $5 million business. Oh, how good's that? But the problem is, as their revenue increases, so do their expenses. And then, unfortunately, the other problems outside of that accounting formula, probably liabilities, assets, usually liabilities, become a growing problem as well. And that's probably also a great segue to talk about Parkinson's law. Think about this. When your business revenue grows, your expenses will always grow or exceed that revenue. So your expenses, you'll have all these expenses, and all you're going to do is, as you build more expenses up, you're just trying to build more revenue to maintain those expenses. I also like looking at Parkinson's law on the basis of resources. There's a few ways to basically describe it. If you have a look at, say, for example, if you think about, go back to your university days, school days, TAFE, whatever it might have been, right? If you got given an assignment and the teacher said to you, you got the whole term to do it. So that's probably about 10 weeks. You got 10 weeks to do it. So 10 weeks is a long time, right? You spend 10 weeks to get it done. But what Parkinson's law basically says is that ends, we tend to fill it with other things. And we look about the job you're going to get done, usually there was always those students who might have done it progressively throughout the 10 weeks, and then a lot of students who would get it done the night before, burning the candle at both ends. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and it's, oh, I'm finished. How good's that? For example, we say having 10 weeks to get that assignment done, but whereas we look at if you had just 1 week to get it done, you'd still have the same result. And that's what Parkinson's law is about, right? I'm also looking at it and going, on a cash point of view, right? And this is where we talk about profit first. If we've got all our cash in one account, and this is where I think for a lot of business owners, they can only see what they can see. And if you've got all your money in one bank account, you've got lots of cash coming in, you tend to have this mindset and this psychology around, I got more than what I actually do have. And no one really looks at the bank account and says, I need to put money aside for my GST, my BAS bill, or I got to pay a supplier in 4 weeks' time. What happens is typically that we think we're doing better than what we are. And you've got a lot of cash, a lot of resources, so cash being a resource, something you can use. So when you've got a lot of it, you go, I've got a lot to use and I've got a lot to spare. So then when you are in that mindset and you apply it to your business, what's going to happen is you're probably going to get a little bit lazy on the sales, you're not going to push. And the second thing is you're probably going to spend more than what you really have. And so then when all that cash runs out and you've spent it all, and then maybe your BAS at the end of the quarter comes up or you owe super for your staff, you go, oh darn, I don't have the cash because you spent it, right? I think for small business owners particularly, the traditional accounting method of thinking about profit is completely broken. We need to reverse engineer it, and we need to basically put profit as our number one. It's our first priority. We've got to flip that accounting formula around and make profit our core focus and say, hey, you know what? We're in business to make a profit, and that's what we're going to head to. What is Profit First really all about? And I think the best way to describe it is it's a mind shift. It's about shifting your mind. It's about getting new priorities, and priority being actually profit being the priority. And as I said before, hoping for a profit. And it really, as I said earlier, this whole Profit First basically flips the traditional accounting concepts. And I know a lot of accountants out there hate Profit First, but I know so many businesses out there that are doing Profit First. I coach business clients to set up Profit First in their business. The framework, whether it's the whole Profit First framework or just a piece of it. But you can't argue with results. And I have so many clients that have set up Profit First from maybe early days, maybe currently, where they're only doing maybe one part of it, and then others who are fully into it, right? And the results are there. The results are there. You can't argue with results. It's clear that you really got to start having a framework to actually, and Profit First is just about being intentional about your finances. It's about allocating. In Profit First, basically what we're doing is we're saying we're going to have all your cash come into one bank account, and then we're going to allocate it where it's needed. As an example, first off, we said that profit was important. We're going to actually park some money in a profit account. We're going to then start putting tax and GST aside. When the tax bill comes up, whether it's for your personal wages, for your personal tax on your wages, or it's the GST that you're going to have to pay, the money's there. And when we start going through this system of we're splitting the money between profit, taxes, and then you too, owners pays another account, owners compensation, going, hey, you're very important in the business, so you want to make sure you get paid as well. Putting money in that account, and then saying, hey, now as well, as part of this whole system, we're going to be very intentional about how much we spend as well. No more overspending on stuff we don't need. If we say, hey, we're only, for us to be a profitable business, our expenses do not exceed, as an example, 40% of our revenue. And so when you start doing that, it forces you to actually make better decisions. And I guess what the profit first system is that we would look at it and say, all that money comes in a revenue account, and then on a timely, so the same period, so it might be every week, every fortnight, I suggest every fortnight, you basically split your money, your revenue that you've collected for those 2 weeks into those allocation of accounts. And then you start again. You go through that next 2 week cycle, but now what's happening is you've got this new KPI, you know how much cash you got to bring. You start creating these new habits, right? And you get to know, hey, for my business to survive, I need $50,000 in the bank account in a fortnight. So you know that, hey, if I need $50,000, that if I get to the end of the first week of that fortnight and I've only got $10,000, you know straight away you've got an issue. Because what's going to happen is now you don't have enough money to pay yourself, right? You've got to think about, you might possibly have overheads like staff wages. You can't not pay your staff. You can't just say to them, hey, it's turning out the last 2 weeks, but I only had about 25% of what we should have received. Am I going to pay you a quarter? No, that's not going to happen. I guess when you start seeing how much cash you need to bring in, you get to a point in time in that 2-week cycle and you go, hey, there's some levers to be pulled there. I need to go out and make more sales, or maybe there's debtors that haven't been paid. Maybe you've got to make some phone calls and say, hey, you owe me X amount, pay up. But once again, it's going back to prioritising the key things you need to do in your business to make sure the cash keeps coming in and stay profitable. So, when we do that, we're clearing out that account, we're seeing a habit, now we're actually focused on what's happening because we can see it. And if we look, say for example, at our expense account, what's going to happen there is when you start basically saying, I'm only allocating 30% or 40% to expenses, now you're going to be very clear about how much you can spend. Mike says in his book, that's the author of Profit First, in case you don't know, he basically talks about forced frugality. It forces you to go, how can I get the same result but spend less? And there's many examples of that, and I'll share them with you in later videos. But it's really turning upside down your relationship with the cash in your business. And it's actually having a relationship with it. It's you actually understanding it. Whereas, unfortunately, many business owners, they haven't done an accounting diploma or accounting degree. Small businesses don't have internally their own accountant. They don't have the finance department managing the cash and yelling at sales. They can't do this, they can't spend this or that, right? It's all on you. So the problem is if you don't have the skill set to understand your accounting reports, and then also probably this psychology piece, this mindset about what I was saying about unlimited resources, which is Parkinson's law, you're going to start also not having that framework. You're going to start spending money you don't have. So this is why it's really flipping everything upside down, and it's the key that there's so many keys. I would say there's so many keys in business to be successful. There's probably about 3 or 4, but getting your finances under control it's got to be high up there. It's got to be at least number 1 or number 2. Putting a strategy in place, a framework, whatever you want to call it, to actually control your profit. Real business stories of transformation in Profit First. I've had so many businesses that have implemented Profit First that have experienced dramatic changes, improvements, and solving simple cash flow issues from families arguing about money to now having that opposite effect. But there are so many positive stories or results that can happen by making a change. It's really encouraging to see and to hear when you hear a client say, hey, I could pay my BAS on time, whereas before I couldn't, always had to call up the ATO for a payment arrangement, which is, you don't want to be doing that all the time. But yeah, there's businesses, so if I look at the struggles of what businesses have had before implementing Profit First, worst case scenario, clients who haven't implemented Profit First having to liquidate, almost losing their home. That's what I have seen. Debts out of control. We're talking some businesses in the hundreds of thousands owing to the ATO. But it's sure there's that cash component of, oh, I owe this or that, or not making any money, turning up to work, nothing to show for when I get home. But I'd say the biggest part of not having a system in place to manage your cash is the arguments you're having with your partner, the financial arguments, the financial stress, the anxiety of going, is someone going to knock on my door and demand money? Or am I going to lose my home? Or just always continuously feeling like you're chasing your tail, right? That is probably the biggest pain. And what I would say to anyone who's feeling like that, you might understand that and you might be going, I can deal with it, but there is a better way. And it's just a matter of going, what change am I going to make? But yeah, look, if you're running a business and you're not paying yourself a decent wage and you've got a whole lot of debt that's hanging over your shoulders, what was the point of being in business? Being in business was supposed to be, for a lot of people, it's about the freedom of being able to work what I want. It's about building something. But if you're coming down at the end of the day and you've got nothing to show, that's horrible. It's horrible. I want to share with you now just a story. I did one client in particular who we have turned around using Profit First. He's a tradesman. Turnover each year is about $1.5 million. When we started, it's 1.5 now, but when we started a few years ago, it was only about $1 million. What's happened by implementing Profit First? First thing, he's now got a relationship with the cash in his business. That's point one. He knows what's happening in there. He's got a system in place. He has a pattern. He's formed new habits. So there was a whole lot of bad habits. Money being spent on expenses he didn't need, right? But then also, for example, just taking money out of the business to go throw in the pokies. So desperate to just try and get a win that I'll go and put the money in the pokies and hope that could solve my problems. These quick little fixes to try and solve problems. 2 years on, by implementing Profit First and having a system to actually manage your cash, has meant that it's brought more capital in his business, because he really did address the fact that he was putting profit as his last priority. So he made it his first priority, right? The next thing he did was he looked at the business and he went, hey, to operate the business successfully, I only need, and I think in his business, the percentages they were pretty high, but we brought them down over time. But now, with his business, I think it's like 38% is expenses. So he's got it down, and that's, pretty good for his industry and his business, right? But the thing is as well is that now, because he had a system in place, he had more cash left over. He was paying himself a better wage. Actually, he was paying himself, also he started paying his super for himself and paying the ATO on time, and he was always paying creditors on time, any suppliers. But the key thing is there's extra cash in the business. So because he's had that extra cash, he's been able to reinvest that. And then that's given the opportunity to actually build the revenue up. So there's a little bit of CPI increase as well, but to go that increase over 2 years is amazing. But it's all because of basically dealing with, and I can tell you right now, the husband and wife team, he had enough pain with the situation that he had when it came to money that he wanted to make a change. Right, it just got down to this rock bottom of, I can't do this anymore, it's just too hard. And his wife was a little bit different. There was pain, but there wasn't enough pain there to make change. And there was a lot of, I can't believe this, why have I got to do that? Trust what I'm saying, do it. And she was what I would call the non-believer. And now she's been my biggest salesman when it comes to this, because she can see the transformation. She can see how it's changed her life. She knows that she's not arguing with her husband every week about something that's got to do with money. The kids, they don't have to worry about saying to them, well, you can't go on that excursion for school because we can't afford it. Now it's like, no problem. It's put him in a better position. And it's just so important. If you're running a small business, or even a big business, whatever, you need to have control of the money in your business. You need to have a relationship with it. You need to know what's going on. And if you're not looking at it, what's going to happen is it's going to get out of control. And I'm sorry, but the only person you're going to have to blame is yourself. You really got to think about going, where am I today and where do I want to be? And once you know that answer, then you can make change. How can Profit First change your business today? Just implementing a strategy, a framework, a system, whether it's big or small, just taking the step and actually implementing and doing something is the best thing you can do. I usually describe and say, particularly with a lot of my clients who are in a lot of pain, I say, hey, let's start slow and let's just form a new habit to start with. So it'd be like, okay, the analogy I'll use with you guys is if I said to you, hey, you've got very limited running experience and tomorrow you're going to go run a marathon. Now, I can tell you what, if you've done very little training, even if you could run 5 kilometres, to run a marathon, it's 42 kilometres, what's going to happen is you'll get at that track when you do that marathon and you'll be dead on the ground. You'll be hating life so much. And it's the same thing with making any change, really. Small steps is probably what I would say is the best way to make change. And whilst Profit First we talk about, as I've already said in the video, the podcast, talking about setting up, you've got a revenue account, having an account for tax and profit, and an account for paying yourself, and an account for expenses, that might be all too much for you. But what I tell people is start slow. And that might be, we just really want you to start a new habit. And that could be just as simple as just opening up a bank account for just profit. Or maybe opening up 2 accounts, one for profit and one just for your GST. And the reality is, if you made that simple change and got into that new habit, you'll start changing for good. And what I do say to businesses, like, if it's such a big deal, look, just try it out. If we just open up a profit account, and if we just said, hey, if your turnover for the week or the fortnight, whatever it might be, was $25,000, put 1% into a bank account just for profit, right? 1% of $25,000 is $250. Now, surely, if you can run your business on $25,000 of cash you brought in, surely you can run your business on $25,000 less $250, which is $24,750, right? But what's happening here is that small change is creating a new good habit. And that's something that you can build upon. So I think that is just a great way to improve your cash flow and start a system so that eventually get down to the point where, you know, even if you don't set up the other bank accounts, go through your bank statements and have a look at where you're spending money. Where can you get a better deal? Or maybe you're paying for a subscription that you just don't need. It's just a matter of having a relationship with the money that's in your business. It's about highlighting a new mindset and making profit a priority in your business. And the reason it's got to be a priority is because you want to pay yourself a decent wage. You don't want to lose your house because you can't pay all your creditors ATO, super. You don't want to be stressed. You don't want to be hating your life. You want to actually go back to the point where you love your business, where it's not a nightmare. It's not what I've set out to be. So guys, that is key to setting up Profit First. So if you're looking to get out of that profit last trap, it's about time to put profit first and stop chasing revenue just so you can pay your expenses. Let's focus on what really matters. Focus on profit. Reverse engineer it. Work out where you want to be, and then let's turn it around and then work towards it, as opposed to having no plan and just endlessly hoping that it might come. Guys, I want to know, what are you going to do to make a change? I'd suggest today, stop the video right now. Stop the podcast, whatever you're doing. Go to your bank, open up that profit account. That is my call to action. That's what I want you guys to do. Go and open up that bank account now. 1 or 2 of them. Just do that to start with. And then just every week, look at what's coming in your account. Start allocating it. Okay, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. See you later.